This particular year, one of the things I developed was Johnny Quest. And to sell it, I did something I hadn't done before.
Remember when Scooby-Doo solved every mystery with a rubber mask and a laugh? A year before that, Johnny Quest was out there dodging bullets, explosions, and robot spiders. This show didn't play it safe. It threw kids straight into the deep end. Something else that set Johnny Quest apart: an animated series with a true sense of place, of an authentic geography. Because the quest traveled around the world, the globe-trotting plot lines gave the show a super cool and very international feel. Johnny Quest was a jet-age spy thriller wrapped in Saturday morning innocence and danger that felt way too real for its time. One iconic shot in the credits, stolen from another show, one eerie sound built from orange crates that could have shocked its composer, and one decoder ring, it secretly brainwashed kids into advertising their sneakers. Stay till the end, because the Lost Gold Key comic reveals a ghost story still buried in the show's DNA. Strap in, race is calling, Zin's watching, and adventure's already rolling. Because honestly, after one episode of Johnny Quest, you'll need an aspirin too.
Does anyone have an aspirin?
Fact 1, the Phantom cartoon in the credits.
You'll land Quester 1 on the beach. Everyone hang on.
Here's something wild. The most famous shot in Johnny Quest's credits, the hovercraft docking with a plane, wasn't even from Johnny Quest. It came from an abandoned pilot for Jack Armstrong, All-American Boy. Hanna-Barbera just spliced it in, hoping no one would notice. And you know what? Nobody did. Kids in 1964 thought it was just another cool gadget in the Quest universe. For me, that's what makes it so strange. Johnny Quest literally carried a ghost cartoon inside it. Imagine discovering your favorite show's DNA belonged to something else entirely. It's like Marvel slipping in footage from a movie that never even came out. Hidden in plain sight, a Phantom cartoon lived inside Johnny Quest credits. That's bizarre, and I love it. Fact 2, the synthesizer built from junk. Johnny Quest sounded way ahead of its time, but here's the kicker. The futuristic noises weren't made with fancy tech. Composer Hoyt Curtin's pianist Jack Cookerly built a synthesizer out of literal junk, orange crates, wires, and tubes that could have electrocuted him if he touched the wrong part. That homemade beast became the backbone of Quest's eerie soundscape. To me, that's insane. Before the Moog, before electronic music took over, a Saturday morning cartoon was already experimenting with raw, dangerous tech. Think about it. Kids were hearing sounds cobbled together in a workshop that looked more like a mad scientist's garage than a studio. Johnny Quest didn't just look futuristic, it sounded futuristic, all because someone wasn't afraid to plug chaos into a wall socket. Fact 3, the secret decoder ring that brainwashed kids.
Dad, this is Johnny. Come in. Come in. Something's wrong.
If you were a kid in 1964 and owned PF Flyers, you probably begged your parents for the Johnny Quest decoder ring. And honestly, who wouldn't? It flashed signals, hid secret notes, and promised to unlock secret messages on TV. Sounds magical, right? Until you tuned in and discovered the hidden message was just 3 words: wear PFS. That's it. A toy designed to brainwash kids into becoming walking sneaker ads. To me, that's hilarious and terrifying at the same time.
Want a PF magic ring like mine? It has a magnifying glass, a secret compartment, a message flasher, and a secret code circle.
Imagine thinking you're part of some global spy mission, only to realize you've been tricked into advertising for your own shoes. It wasn't just a decoder ring. It was one of the earliest examples of stealth marketing disguised as childhood adventure. Fact 4, the cartoon that almost wasn't Johnny Quest.
Jesse!
Here's a plot twist. Johnny Quest wasn't supposed to exist. Hanna-Barbera was working on a Jack Armstrong cartoon based on a 1930s radio hero. Sets were built, characters ready, a pilot finished. Then boom, the rights fell apart at the last minute. Suddenly, no show. But Doug Wildey didn't panic. Overnight, he retooled the entire project, swapped Armstrong for Quest, and the series was born. And honestly, I love that. One of the most iconic adventure cartoons of all time exists because of a legal disaster. It makes me think sometimes chaos is the best creative fuel. Without paperwork collapsing, we wouldn't be talking about Johnny Quest today. What feels like failure in the moment can actually become the spark that changes everything. Fact 5, the bulldog nobody wanted. Johnny's sidekick Bandit seems like the heart of the show, but here's the truth. Doug Wildey didn't even want him. Wildey pictured Johnny with something exotic, maybe a monkey or even a baby cheetah, but the network said no. Too weird, too risky. Instead, animator Dick Bickenback was told to design a cute, safe bulldog, perfect for toys and plushies. And Bandit was born. Personally, I think that's fascinating. Bandit made the show lighter, funnier, and way more kid-friendly, but at the cost of Wildey's vision. You can almost feel the tug-of-war between art and commerce every time Bandit stumbles into trouble. For me, Bandit isn't just comic relief. He's the symbol of how networks quietly reshape creativity to make things marketable. Fact 6. Guns, explosions, and real danger. If you grew up on Scooby-Doo or Looney Tunes, Johnny Quest must have felt like stepping into another world. This cartoon didn't mess around. Guns fired, rockets exploded, villains actually died on screen. Whole buildings collapsed, while Johnny and Hadji dodged real danger. And here's the crazy part. This was primetime family TV. Imagine sitting on the couch with your parents and watching a robot spider torch a lab with flamethrowers. For me, that's what made Quest different. It treated kids like they could handle danger, not just slapstick. No pianos dropping on cats here. This was pulp adventure, raw and unfiltered. Honestly, I think that intensity is why it stuck. It wasn't safe, it was thrilling, and it made kids feel part of something bigger. Fact 7. The villain with two voices.
Hey, Johnny, got any ideas? Kill them all! Blow them up!
Dr. Zinn wasn't just a creepy cartoon villain, he was voiced by Vic Perrin, the same man behind the control voice in The Outer Limits. Picture being a kid in 1964. One night Perrin warns you about alien invasions on Outer Limits, and the next, his voice is plotting world domination on Johnny Quest. That's terrifying consistency. And honestly, I think that's genius casting. Zinn didn't need wild costumes or crazy catchphrases. His menace was all in the voice. Cold, calculating, unforgettable. For me, that crossover of sound is what made Zinn feel bigger than a cartoon villain. He wasn't just chasing Johnny and Race, he was haunting American television, whispering through 2 shows at once, cementing himself as pure nightmare fuel. Fact 8. Bandit's hidden merchandising DNA.
But Dad, Race is our friend too.
Sorry, boys, you'll have to stay here.
Here's the thing most people don't realize. Bandit wasn't just for laughs. He was designed to sell. His look was chunky, simple, and easy for toy makers to reproduce. In other words, he was built for lunchboxes before he was built for adventure. Doug Wildey hated that. He wanted realism, sleek designs, and an exotic animal companion. But Hanna-Barbera knew where the money was. Bandit was the Trojan horse of the series. Cute chaos smuggled into the show for the sake of merchandise. And you know what? It worked. Bandit became iconic. For me, this is the perfect example of art colliding with commerce. You want a serious spy thriller, the network wants plush bulldogs, and in the end, you get both. Fact 9. The show too expensive to survive.
Back off, you tin can.
Johnny Quest wasn't canceled because people hated it. It was canceled because it was bleeding money. Most cartoons back then ran cheap, simple backgrounds, recycled animations, goofy plots. But Quest wanted realism, exotic settings, complex vehicles, cinematic angles. That kind of detail cost serious cash, and ABC couldn't justify it. Only 26 episodes ever got made. To me, that's bittersweet. Imagine creating something groundbreaking and having to stop because it was too good. In a way, it proved that audiences wanted more than just slapstick, but TV budgets weren't ready for it. Johnny Quest was ahead of its time, and like many innovators, it paid the price. Success wasn't the problem, ambition was. Fact 10, the cartoon that hit all 3 networks.
Stop them, do you hear?
This is one of the strangest TV quirks. Johnny Quest is one of the only shows to air on all 3 major US networks. It premiered on ABC, reran on CBS from 1967 to 1970, and then popped up again on NBC in the early 70s. Think about that. 3 rival networks all aired the same cartoon within a decade. That almost never happens. For me, it shows how much staying power Quest had. Even with just 26 episodes, every network wanted a piece of it. It's like a band that only released 1 album but got signed to 3 record labels anyway. Pure rarity. Johnny Quest didn't just survive, he kept coming back, 1 rerun at a time.
Fact 11, the future Animal House star. Johnny's voice sounded like a real kid because it actually was. A young actor named Tim Matheson played Johnny, and later went on to star in Animal House and even The West Wing. That's wild, right? Most Hanna-Barbera kid voices were just adults pitching up their tone, but here we had a real boy. And honestly, it worked. Johnny felt more authentic than your average cartoon kid. For me, that's part of why the series holds up. You weren't listening to some actor pretending to be 12, you were hearing the genuine energy of a young guy who later became a Hollywood star. Every time Johnny yells race, you're hearing the early voice of a future leading man. Fact 12, the doctor with 2 voices.
I'm afraid it consumed Dr. Norman before he could stop it.
Dr. Benton Quest didn't sound the same in every episode, and that's because 2 actors played him. At first it was John Stinson, but his voice was a little too close to Race Bannon's. So they switched to Don Messick, who gave Quest a warmer, more fatherly tone. To me, that's fascinating. Imagine watching a show today and the main character just swaps voices mid-season. Kids probably didn't notice back then, but if you listen closely now, it's obvious. Personally, I think Messick nailed it. He made Dr. Quest feel like both a scientist and a dad, not just a stock professor voice. It's a small change, but it shaped the entire emotional core of the series. Fact 13. Real boys, not pretend ones.
No time for goodbyes. All aboard, Haji.
Howdy ho!
Here's something Hanna-Barbera almost never did. They used actual boys to voice the kids. Tim Matheson voiced Johnny, and Danny Bravo voiced Hadji. Normally, studios hired women or men with high voices to fake being kids. But here, they wanted authenticity, and I think that made a huge difference. Johnny and Hadji didn't sound like cartoon characters, they sounded like your friends down the street. It gave the show an edge of realism that matched the adventurous tone. To me, that choice made the danger feel more real. When Johnny screamed in fear, it didn't sound silly, it sounded like a kid in actual trouble. That's rare for 1960s cartoons, and it's why Johnny Quest still feels alive. Fact 14. Hadji, the groundbreaking sidekick.
Okay, Haji, ready? Ready.
In 1964, American TV was overwhelmingly white. But Johnny Quest introduced Hadji Singh, one of the first recurring non-white protagonists in an animated series. Sure, some cultural stereotypes were baked in. It was the 60s. But Hadji was smart, brave, and treated as Johnny's equal. For me, that's groundbreaking. Kids who had never seen themselves represented on TV suddenly had a hero wearing a turban, casting sim-sim syllabim spells, and saving the day. And it wasn't tokenism. Hadji was truly part of the Quest family. Looking back, that's huge. In a time when diversity was nearly invisible in cartoons, Johnny Quest quietly made history with Hadji. It gave kids someone new to root for, and that matters. Fact 15. The theme in E-flat minor. The Johnny Quest theme song slaps harder than most TV themes. And here's a secret. It was written in E-flat minor, a key that makes brass instruments cry for mercy. Hoyt Curtin said the trombone part was murder to play. And you can hear it. Those brassy blasts are relentless, like a jazz band trying to punch through your speakers. To me, that's what sets the tone for the whole show. It's not playful, it's not silly. It's urgent, dangerous, almost cinematic. Imagine being a kid in 1964, and instead of a bouncy cartoon jingle, you get hit with a spy thriller fanfare in a punishing minor key. That's not background music, that's a mission briefing. Fact 16, the garage synth that made history. Before synthesizers took over music in the 70s, Johnny Quest had one cobbled together in 1964. Jack Cookerly, Curtin's pianist, literally built an electronic contraption from spare parts, orange crates, wires, tubes, and used it to generate those alien hums and sci-fi whirs. It wasn't polished, it wasn't safe, but it worked. For me, this is the kind of behind-the-scenes chaos that makes the show legendary. While other cartoons were recycling sound effects, Quest was experimenting with DIY electronics like a Mad Lab project. It's crazy to think that a cartoon soundtrack was pioneering electronic music years before bands like Kraftwerk or Pink Floyd brought it mainstream. Quest didn't just look futuristic, it sounded futuristic. Fact 17. Science straight from the newsstand. Doug Wildey didn't just make up Johnny Quest's gadgets, he raided popular science and popular mechanics for ideas. Hovercrafts, lasers, jetpacks. They weren't fantasy, they were 10 minutes into the future inventions. And you know what? That's what made the show feel so real. While other cartoons had magic wands or silly contraptions, Johnny Quest was teaching kids about tech that actually existed, or soon would. To me, that's genius. It wasn't just pulp adventure, it was a window into the possible. I imagine kids watching and thinking, this could really happen. And honestly, they weren't wrong. Wildey didn't predict the future. He borrowed it from magazines, then put it on TV in a way no one else dared. Fact 18. Danger was the point. Most Hanna-Barbera shows played it safe, chase scenes, pratfalls, no real consequences. But Johnny Quest leaned into danger like it was a character itself. Guns fired bullets, explosions took out buildings, people drowned, fell, or were crushed. And ABC aired this in prime time. To me, that's crazy. Parents expected cartoons to be harmless, then suddenly their kids were watching Johnny and Hadji outrun flamethrowers. That level of intensity shocked some viewers, but it also glued kids to the screen. Personally, I think it worked because it treated kids with respect. It didn't water down the stakes. If someone shot at you, it mattered. Johnny Quest blurred the line between cartoon fun and actual pulp thriller, and it never apologized for it. Fact 19. Zinn, the perfect villain.
Quest, I don't know, but wherever it comes from, it's the result of a brilliant mind.
Dr. Zinn wasn't just another Saturday morning bad guy. He was cold, calculated, and he kept coming back. Played by Vic Perrin, Zinn had a voice that could chill steel. He didn't need flashy costumes, just calm menace. And honestly, I think that's why he worked. Unlike other Hanna-Barbera villains, Zinn wasn't a one-off gag. He was an arch nemesis in the Bond mold, and kids knew when he showed up, things were serious. To me, Zinn is what gave Quest its weight.
Every hero needs a shadow, and Zinn wasn't cartoonish, he was genuinely threatening. That steady presence made the show feel bigger than a one-season wonder. It gave Johnny Quest its mythology, one whispered threat at a time. Fact 20, the robot spy that stole the show. If you only remember one Johnny Quest episode, it's probably the robot spy, a steel spider with glowing eyes sent by Dr. Zinn, rolling silently through the Quest compound. No magic, no gimmick, just raw tech menace. And man, it worked. That thing felt unstoppable. For me, this is Johnny Quest at its peak, where science fiction meets nightmare fuel. Kids weren't laughing at this spider, they were hiding behind the couch. And the fact it came from Zinn made it even scarier. One villain, one invention, and suddenly Johnny Quest looked more like a thriller than a cartoon. Even now, fans call The Robot Spy the show's most iconic episode. One steel spider cemented Johnny Quest's legacy. Fact 21, Jade, Race Bannon's shadow. Race Bannon was the ultimate bodyguard, but even he had a past. Enter Jade, his mysterious old flame who showed up twice in the series. She wasn't just a throwaway character. She brought real drama. Suddenly, Race wasn't just the tough guy with a square jaw. He was a man with secrets. And honestly, I love that. In a kid's cartoon, romance almost never makes it in, let alone unresolved tension. But Jade gave Johnny Quest a noir edge like something out of Casablanca. For me, that's when the show felt grown up. Race had depth, Jade had mystery, and together they made Quest's world feel more alive. It was pulp soap opera tucked inside a kid's adventure. Brilliant. Fact 22, around the world in 26 episodes. Forget Scooby-Doo solving mysteries in the same town every week. Johnny Quest went everywhere. Egypt, India, Nepal, the Arctic, the Andes. Each episode dropped you in a new location. That's ambitious for live-action TV, let alone animation. And I think that's part of the magic. Quest felt global at a time when most kids' shows barely left suburbia. Personally, I think that's why it stuck with people. You felt like you were traveling with Johnny and Haji, discovering places you'd never seen before. Sure, the accuracy was hit or miss, but the scale was undeniable. In just 26 episodes, Quest built a world bigger than most shows manage in 100. That's not just storytelling, that's world building.
Fact 23, Haji's adoption in Calcutta. One of the most human moments in the series came in the Calcutta adventure. That's where Johnny and Dr. Quest meet Haji, who saves Johnny's life with a quick-thinking move, then joins the family for good. He's not just a sidekick, he's adopted into the Quest household. And honestly, that's huge. Most shows didn't bother with emotional stakes for secondary characters. But here, Haji wasn't background, he became family. For me, that was one of the most progressive things in the series. An American scientist raising an Indian boy as his son in the 1960s, that mattered. It showed kids a kind of inclusivity you didn't see on TV then. And it gave the Quest family real heart. Fact 24. The first episode was a statement.
Not before I catch you, fly guy. Being part robot can be handy.
The show didn't waste time easing in. The premiere episode, The Mystery of the Lizard Men, set the tone immediately. A government agent calls Dr. Quest to investigate mysterious sabotage. Race jumps in to protect, and Johnny and Haji dive headfirst into danger. From the very first shot, you knew this wasn't Scooby-Doo, and that's why I love it. They opened with espionage, monsters, and straight-up peril. No comedy buffer, no warm-up episode. The show told you right away, this is a primetime adventure with bullets, villains, and international intrigue. For me, that first episode was the mission statement. Johnny Quest wasn't about laughs, it was about the thrill of danger, and it delivered instantly. Fact 25, Bandit's blueprint survives.
Stand back, everybody!
Here's something that blew my mind. The original Bandit model sheets by animator Dick Bickenbach still exist. They show every angle of the little bulldog, down to the spots around his eyes. What's fascinating is how simple and chunky the design really was, made for toy makers as much as animators. And honestly, you can see why Wildey hated it. Bandit wasn't drawn for realism, he was built like a lunchbox mascot. To me, that's the story in a nutshell. Johnny Quest tried to be bold and cinematic, but the network kept sneaking in safe choices like Bandit. Those model sheets are proof of how corporate fingerprints shaped the show before it even hit the screen. Fact 26, a ghost scene in the credits.
They must not escape. No, it cannot be.
One of the most iconic images in Johnny Quest, the hovercraft boarding a plane, wasn't Johnny Quest at all. It came from the scrapped Jack Armstrong pilot. Hanna-Barbera kept the shot in the closing credits anyway, like a phantom reminder of the show that almost was. And honestly, I love details like that. Kids watched those credits for years without realizing they were staring at a ghost. To me, it's like finding out your favorite song has a hidden sample from a completely different band. The fact that Johnny Quest carried a dead show inside its DNA just makes it stranger and kind of poetic. A canceled project still lived on every single week, hiding in plain sight. Fact 27, the PF Flyers marketing stunt.
Silence the animal!
Don't you shoot at my dog!
Let's talk about one of the boldest product tie-ins ever. PF Flyers sneakers didn't just slap Johnny Quest on a box, they gave kids a decoder ring. It flashed signals, held secret messages, and promised spy-level fun. But when kids used it, the big secret message was simply, wear PFS. That's it. Pure advertising disguised as adventure. Honestly, I find that both brilliant and sneaky. Millions of kids thought they were part of a mission, when really they were just being recruited as unpaid walking billboards. Today we call that stealth marketing. Back then, it was just another Saturday morning promotion. And in a way, it worked. People still talk about that ring decades later. Fact 28, a card game you've never seen.
Hardly a guy, Johnny. Dr. Ashida's a most respected scientist.
In 1965, Milton Bradley released a Johnny Quest card game. It wasn't flashy, just a 42-card deck with simple rules and a score pad. But here's the weird part, hardly anyone remembers it. Unlike Barbie or G.I. Joe toys, this game basically vanished. For me, that makes it even more fascinating. It's like a forgotten artifact from an alternate timeline, where Johnny Quest became a merchandising giant. Owning that card game now is like holding a relic of TV history, proof that Hanna-Barbera wanted Johnny Quest to be more than just a cartoon. They wanted it to be a brand. The game didn't take off, but it shows how early they were pushing cross-media adventures. Fact 29, the broken DVD release.
Ready?
Me, I am ready. What do you...
Catch him, Hockey!
He is too...
When Johnny Quest finally hit DVD in 2004, fans thought it was Christmas morning, but the excitement didn't last. The set had errors, edits, missing footage, even mistakes in the credits. Hardcore fans noticed right away and were furious. Imagine waiting 40 years to own your favorite show, only to find it messed with. Personally, I get it. Nostalgia deserves respect, and when studios cut corners, it feels like betrayal. That 2004 release was supposed to cement Quest's legacy. Instead, it became a reminder of how fragile classic shows can be in modern hands. Fans basically said, if you're going to release Johnny Quest, release it right, or don't bother at all. Fact 30, redemption in Blu-ray.
We know now that man has always found ways to alter his emotions.
15 years later, Warner Archive finally fixed the mess. In 2019, Johnny Quest got a Blu-ray release sourced from new HD masters, uncut and uncensored. Every episode, crisp and complete, just like it aired in 1964. For me, that's redemption. Fans who felt burned by the 2004 DVD finally got the version they'd been waiting decades for. And honestly, watching it in high definition shows just how cinematic the animation really was. You can see the detail, the color, the grit that was lost in fuzzy reruns. The Blu-ray proved Johnny Quest wasn't just a cartoon, it was practically an animated action film. Better late than never, right? Fact 31, the soundtrack that wouldn't die.
Give her all you got, Reese!
Boyd Curtin's Johnny Quest score was so good, it eventually got its own 2-CD collector's release. And here's the cool part, it included an extended version of the main title without sound effects. Hearing it clean, all brass and drums, is a revelation. To me, that shows how much the music mattered. It wasn't background noise, it was part of the storytelling. Even decades later, people wanted to own it, study it, and play it loud. That's rare for a cartoon soundtrack, most get forgotten. Johnny Quest's music became iconic, surviving on its own terms. And honestly, I think that theme could still work in a modern spy thriller. It's timeless. Fact 32, credit where it wasn't due.
How you doing, bandit?
Doug Wildey was the creative mind behind Johnny Quest, but he never got the full created by credit. Instead, he was stuck with based on an idea created by Doug Wildey. That small wording was the result of legal wrangling, and it frustrated him for years. And honestly, I don't blame him. Without Wildey, there is no Johnny Quest. He brought the look, the tone, the realism, the research. To downplay his role feels unfair. For me, this is one of those behind-the-scenes battles that shows how messy TV credits can be. Creators pour their soul into a project, then watch the official paperwork reduce it to a footnote. Wildey deserved better. Fact 33, File 037, Johnny's secret codename.
Are pygmies warm and friendly people? Yes or no?
No!
Before Johnny Quest even had a title, Hanna-Barbera internally labeled it File 037. It was meant to sound like a spy dossier, straight out of a James Bond film. And honestly, I love that detail. It shows how much the show was tapping into the 60s spy craze. Kids weren't just watching a cartoon, they were peeking into a secret government file. For me, that early codename sets the tone perfectly. Johnny Quest wasn't born as just another Hanna-Barbera show, it was conceived like an espionage thriller. Even the paperwork sounded classified. Imagine being a kid and hearing, "You've got clearance for File 037. That's not a cartoon, that's an adventure briefing. Fact 34, the blueprint for Space Ghost.
Our guest tonight, America's greatest action kid, here's Johnny.
Johnny Quest only lasted one season, but its DNA carried forward. Hanna-Barbera basically used Quest as the test run for later adventure shows like Space Ghost and the Herculoids. And you can see it. Bold villains, real stakes, exotic settings. To me, that's Quest's hidden legacy. Even though it didn't survive on its own, it paved the way for a whole line of Saturday morning action cartoons. Without Johnny Quest, Space Ghost might never have existed, and superhero animation might have taken a lot longer to grow up. I think of Quest as the rough draft for everything that came after. It may have been too expensive for its time, but it opened doors that Hanna-Barbera and TV animation kept walking through. Fact 35, the price of being cinematic.
Fly guy, I got your computer.
Here's the cruel irony. The very thing that made Johnny Quest so groundbreaking is what killed it. Those cinematic backgrounds, fluid fight scenes, and globe-trotting locations were simply too costly for 1960s TV. Each episode cost way more than Scooby-Doo or the Flintstones, and ABC couldn't keep footing the bill. To me, this is the classic story of art versus budget. Johnny Quest was trying to be a movie disguised as a cartoon, but in television, you can't run at film budgets forever. The ambition was beautiful, but unsustainable. Honestly, that's part of its legend. It died because it reached too far. And that's kind of poetic. Fact 36, Race Bannon's secret identity.
Run for it, Johnny!
Heads down, Race!
Race Bannon wasn't just a cool name, it was a cover. His full name was Roger T. Race Bannon, and he wasn't just Johnny's bodyguard. He was a government agent assigned to protect the Quest family. Think about that. Johnny and Haji basically lived with a full-time Secret Service detail. To me, that changes how you watch the show. Race isn't tagging along as a babysitter. He's on a mission. He's there because Johnny's dad is too important, too valuable to leave unguarded. And that backstory adds layers. Race wasn't just muscle. He was a professional agent, always half a step away from being pulled into something darker. A kid's cartoon with a government minder. That's pretty intense. Fact 37. Real boys, real fear.
No one will interfere. Look, it is Anubis, the god himself.
Using real boys to voice Johnny and Haji gave the series a raw edge. You can hear it in their fear, their excitement, their curiosity. It wasn't polished acting, it was real kids reacting. And I think that's why the danger hit harder. When Johnny yells for Race, it doesn't sound like a silly cartoon, it sounds like a scared kid. That choice made the show stand apart. Honestly, I think it's one reason it aged so well. Other cartoons from the era feel goofy now, but Quest, it feels grounded because the voices came from kids who could have been your neighbors. It's small, but it made the peril feel real, and that still works today. Fact 38. Monsters, Nazis, and mummies.
Head for a tree, boys.
In just 26 episodes, Johnny Quest fought it all. Robots, spiders, mummies, Nazi fighter pilots, fake Yetis, giant sea monsters. Most shows stretch a single gimmick over years. Quest packed the whole pulp adventure catalog into one season, and that's why it feels bigger than it really is. To me, that's the magic. You only got 26 episodes, but it feels like 100 because every adventure was so different. No recycled mystery machine here. Every week was a new pulp novel. Honestly, that variety is why fans still talk about it decades later. It burned bright fast and left behind a gallery of villains and creatures that felt endless. Fact 39, the Quest lives again.
I'm going to let you each kiss me.
For 20 years, those 26 episodes reran endlessly. Then in 1986, Hanna-Barbera brought Johnny back with the New Adventures of Johnny Quest. Later came the 90s revival, The Real Adventures of Johnny Quest, and even TV movies. And here's the thing, none of them hit like the original. To me, that proves the 1964 series captured lightning in a bottle. You can update the gadgets, redraw the characters, add new villains, but you can't recreate that raw, pulpy mix of Bond, sci-fi, and Saturday morning chaos. Still, the fact they kept trying shows how strong the brand was. Johnny Quest wasn't a one-and-done cartoon. It became a template studios kept chasing for decades. Fact 40, the bonus villain who outlived the show.
What do you make of it, Dr. Quest?
I don't know what's wrong. It's the result of a brilliant mind.
Remember the bonus I promised? Here it is. The real legacy of Johnny Quest isn't Johnny himself, it's Dr. Zinn. He outlived the show, popping up in the 80s revival, the 90s version, and even comic books. Fans kept demanding him back because Zinn wasn't just a villain, he was the villain. That calm, whispery menace stayed iconic long after the series was gone. To me, that says it all. Johnny Quest only ran for one season, but Zinn became immortal. The show may have died from budget cuts, but its greatest villain lived on. And that's the strange magic of Johnny Quest. The chaos ends, but the shadows it cast keep walking. Bonus fact, Johnny Quest got exactly one contemporary comic book during its original run, a single Gold Key one-shot in 1964, adapting the pilot The Mystery of the Lizardmen. It wasn't a full series, just one issue, complete with a cast roll, a Sargasso Sea feature page, and a back cover pinup. Then, it disappeared. No issue 2. Today, that lone book is a scarce collectible that routinely shows up in auction catalogs and specialty shops with only issue in the description. For a show built to spawn merchandise, the comic line basically vanished after page 32, which makes the survivor feel like a relic from an alternate timeline where Quest became a comics juggernaut. Proof? Gold Key publication records and collector guides confirm the single-issue run.